You are listening to the Vaultcast, the official podcast of the B-Movie Film Vault, with your hosts, Jordan Guerin and Silent Steve Oldford.
Hey everybody, this is the Vaultcast. Happy Halloween, this is Jordan.
And this is Silent Steve.
And it has been too freaking long.
Let's just say we're back.
We're back.
The boys are back in town. And we're not even going to bother to try and catch up on what we missed, because that's pointless.
Really. No.
So let's just start we'll act like we've started a new podcast.
This is the Vaultcast 2.0.
Yeah.
Alright, some quick announcements before we get into this, because this is going to go online by the time Halloween rolls around, which is next Saturday.
I'm holding you to that.
Okay. I hope I don't disappoint. This coming Saturday on Starz Network, Evil Dead, the TV show, Ash vs. the Evil Dead, is going to premiere.
Yes, it is.
I don't have Starz, but I'm going to find a way to watch it anyway.
I think a lot of people are in that situation.
Pretty much. So
it's one of those things where you're not quite sure you're going to buy Starz to just watch it, but you're going to find a way to see it.
Absolutely. Hopefully it's going to be on video on demand or something. And also, coming up in December 12th, Hudson Horror Show 12. There's still a few tickets left as of us recording this.
Which site is this?
www.hudsonhorror.com.
No, I mean, where's it taking place? Because they have a few sites now.
Yeah, they do some shows at the Alamo Drafthouse in Yonkers. This one's taking place at the original theater, the Empire, South Hills 8 in Poughkeepsie.
Okay.
They're showing Stunt Rock. They're showing Demonoid, which is being presented by Vinegar Syndrome. Friday the 13th Part 2, which I'm sponsoring. Halloween 2. Mystery Movie, and The Warriors. So it's a hell of a lineup. There's going to be vendors, contest giveaways, and they're showing movies on 2 screens. So there's going to be 2 theaters full of people watching the same movies, just in a different lineup.
Yeah, that's all that, like, they're switching reels and...
Pretty much, yeah. They're just going back and
forth.
It's
an interesting way to go about it. I mean, if I was one of the collectors renting this out, I mean, do you charge them twice as much, or...?
No. You know what? Let's not even give them that idea, okay? Alright, so for our Halloween episode, last year we discussed the Universal Monsters and Monster Squad and stuff. So this time we're going to kick things off here with talking about Wes Craven.
Because he passed away.
Yeah, he passed away from brain cancer. I'm shocked that happened. I never knew anything about it.
There's a lot of... That happens a lot, though. There's a lot of celebrities when they're going through something like that, they don't make it as public.
Yeah, which is understandable, like when Stan Winston passed away.
Yeah.
It's an awful thing, but we were discussing this. We were going to record this last week, but you're not a big as Wes Craven fan.
I'm not a hater. It's the way I would word it is I don't love his films enough to get in depth about them, and I was worried because we hadn't done a podcast in a while.
Yeah,
and I didn't want to shoot from the hip and talk about something that I wouldn't be able to draw from a lot. You know, I mean, I don't want to draw from an empty well. But, you know, when you look at his filmography, there are movies that I really like that he did. I just only know it as a viewer. It isn't something like that I can talk in depth about like we did with Jaws.
That's true. Yeah, we have a huge love for that.
But, I mean, you do.
I like Wes Craven's movies quite a bit. I mean, I'm more of a John Carpenter guy. But you gotta give Wes his due.
Yeah, I am too. John Carpenter's one of those ones where if someone hasn't seen a John Carpenter movie, I initiate them, and you got to kind of push them along, and like you have we'll watch this one first. Watch this one first.
Yeah.
You know? Wes Craven though this is what I will say about him. He's not something like Carpenter where you have people that haven't seen his stuff. Craven like went in enough different directions and was mainstream enough. Or I don't want to say mainstream, I want to say he could translate his horror idea to a mainstream audience enough so that, I mean, everybody knows Freddy Krueger.
Oh, yeah. It's the most iconic thing Craven's ever done. Aside from Scream.
Yeah.
I like those movies, but I like his smaller stuff better.
Actually, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Like, Swamp Thing is amazing to me.
Government agents, scientists, soldiers, master criminals, secret formulas, monsters, and midgets. None of them belong in this swamp. Only one thing does. The Swamp Thing.
Even the sequel is just the two amazing movies.
The best part of part one was seeing Adrienne Barbeau's boobs at a young age. Blew my mind.
Well, there's also the one-liner that he has when his arm's cut off, and she says, "Does it hurt?" Yeah.
Only when I laugh.
And then he laughs. Yeah.
That's great. And David Hess was in that, who was in Last House from the Left. Have you seen that one? That's like Craven's first...
I haven't seen the remake, but I could say that about a lot of things.
That's true.
I think he's one of those guys that just like to make movies.
The one thing I liked about him is how he pretty much said, screw you to the MPAA when he first came out with Last House on the Left. Did I tell you that whole story?
Yeah, he faked the rating, didn't he?
Yeah, he and Sean Cunningham, who did Friday the 13th, who was helping Craven make the film, were exasperated with the MPAA because they were like, you can't have this, you can't have this, you can't have this. So they were editing the movie in the same building as the editors for the original Evil Dead, and Craven walked down the hall, popped in to see them, and then stole like one of those little like, this film has been rated R things, and tacked it onto the beginning of the reel. And then they sent the movie uncut out to theaters. And to my knowledge, I don't think he ever got any flack for it.
Well, I mean, it went out into the public and there wasn't blowback from it, so there.
But I always thought that was pretty damn cool. And he's always dream obsessed with his movies, like Nightmare on Elm Street, You Die in Your Dreams, Shocker. The hero has a dream connection with the killer in the movie. Serpent in the Rainbow.
Don't let them bury me. I'm not dead.
The Serpent and the Rainbow.
I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
Yeah, I have.
But there's a lot involving dreams in that movie as well.
There's a number of levels that I think he used that as. One thing, he mixed this almost like a horror fantasy with reality, where there's this threshold where it crosses.
Yeah, so you're not sure...
Things are coming into the real world that haven't been there before. And he suspends your disbelief by having these sort of dream sequences to establish that, okay, this is what's coming. Mm-hmm. That's why Freddy eventually does come to the real world in a way. And I think that was very important. I think that's what inspired him with Scream, was that he was trying to take an outlet, because like every horror movie scenario is just so far-fetched.
Yeah.
And he seemed to be one of those people that really knew that if you want to draw the mainstream audience, you have to have, especially if you're doing something as high concept as dreams that can kill you, you have to suspend their disbelief in a certain way. And he was very good at that. The odd thing is, I think his best work was not his most popular work. I think when he was doing stuff like In a Corner and being picked on by the MPAA or not having an audience yet where he can put his name, Wes Craven's whatever, I think he did a lot of his best work before that.
You could say that about a lot of filmmakers, though.
Well, there's the pressure of having you're forced to be creative when you have a lot against you. Yeah, and he's definitely an artist because he made it through that with good movies. But I feel like I'm knocking him when I shouldn't be.
You're not. I know what you're saying. You're not knocking the guy. And one more thing is, I think it's cool that like several of these films are based on like they were inspired by events and about things he read in like the news. Like Nightmare on Elm Street, he read news reports of people dying in their sleep from having like terrifying nightmares. Most of these people were refugees that were displaced during a war, and that's kind of what kicked things off for him. Also, Serpent in the Rainbow was based on kind of a true story about a reporter that went to Haiti to learn more about how they create zombies and whatnot, and that's how they discovered that I can't remember the name of the powder they use, the drug. It's like a neurotoxin, but it damages people's nerves so much and everything they basically come like a blank slate. There's more science involved than magic. And even the people under the stairs, like that was based on a true story, vaguely.
In every neighborhood, there is one house that adults whisper about, and children cross the street to avoid. Now, Wes Craven, creator of A Nightmare on Elm Street, takes you inside. The people under the stairs.
Apparently, these two burglars actually broke into somebody's house and found that the couple that was living there had two kids like chained up in the house. So I always thought that was interesting. They took something from the real world and made a story out of it.
Yeah. And Cursed was based on real werewolves.
Have you ever seen Cursed?
It's definitely his worst movie.
It is, but it's really entertaining.
I really felt like it felt like that was at the point where his name was enough of a brand that they slapped it on there to boost sales. That's what it felt like.
And he
to
had
me.
a lot of trouble making that film, as I recall, too. There was studio interference, there was constant rewrites on the script and everything.
I can't remember, was that after Scream?
Yes. I think it was one of his later films, I believe.
So it's it's a double-edged sword of once you're popular, you have to toe the line, sort of. I think that's why Spielberg has waned in his recent years, is because he thinks like a producer now, instead of the young guy who's fighting against the man.
He's become the man.
Yeah.
But I can't knock him either, because he's getting Ready Player One into theaters.
I'm so scared about that. I don't want to get into it too much, but I'm scared because I heard he's not going to include any movies that he did.
What?
Yeah, so that takes out like a third of the book.
Okay,
I mean, that means like no Goonies references, no... all of that's gone. He doesn't want to reference himself, and I almost think maybe he's too much a product of the 80s to be part of it. I think that maybe this is a movie that needs to be made by someone like the makers of Turbo Kid, who definitely love the 80s.
Alright, we're getting off base there, but those are all movies we're going to have to talk about at one point.
Yeah. Alright, to bring it back to Wes, there's two things I want to say before we move on.
Okay.
We sort of know someone who worked on the set of Cursed.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, you brought that up earlier. Ron Chamberlain is a special effects guru.
Underrated guy.
Very underrated. Still hasn't gotten his big break in movies, but he's working. He just did Tales of Dracula last year.
For anyone who knows about makeup, he worked under Dick Smith, who is the greatest makeup artist of all time. So he was really an apprentice under him. And I think what really happened to Ron was that he came into the industry when they were moving away from makeup and going more and more digital, less practical. So you have this guy who's incredibly talented, who's more than willing to make old school effects that look great.
It's a tough business to get into. I mean, even if you've been around a while,
you
got to know the right people. Basically, he never got a shot, and I think he could do great things. I've seen his work on, Demon Messenger.
Yeah.
The best part of that movie was the monster.
Or even just because he's gone to some conventions.
Oh yeah, he goes to Monster Bash and he does makeup on people.
The makeup he does there is amazing.
It is. So. Yeah, there's pictures online if you look around. Just type in like Ron Chamberlain Monster Bash and click Google Images, and you'll see some great stuff.
So Ron also trained someone, and that person who we met, and I can't remember her name, worked on the. She was like head makeup for Cursed.
Yeah, I can't remember either, but
she was nice.
Yeah.
So the other thing we're going to segue into here is that one of your earliest horror memories came from Nightmare on Elm Street, apparently.
Yeah. I was at this preschool / daycare center, and some of the older kids would tape horror movies off of TV and bring them in, and one of them was A Nightmare on Elm Street. So I saw that when I was like 5 or 6 years old, and it really resonated with me. The creepiest part of it was the scene where the girls dreaming in school, Heather Langenkamp, and one of the girls that died earlier in the film is like beckoning to her inside the high school during the dream, and she's inside like a plastic body bag and like leaving a trail of blood through the school. That freaked me the hell out when I was a kid. And this is watching the edited for TV version of Nightmare on Elm Street. So that was one of the first ones. Also, Dark Night of the Scarecrow was one of the first ones I ever saw, too.
This gentleman saved this little girl's life, but they accused him of harming her.
We'll do this ourselves.
And he was tragically murdered. Now, one by one, the men of this town are dying. Who is his avenger? Could it be the Scarecrow? Dark Night of the Scarecrow, coming up next.
Now we bounce to you.
Well, I mean, if we're going to talk about first things I've ever seen, technically The Howling is the first one I ever saw.
But you're like a year old.
I was a year old and I didn't understand what was happening. The first movie I remember seeing that had scary imagery in it was Ghostbusters. I saw that in the theater when I was 4.
Yeah, your adventures in the cinemas when you were younger are amazing.
But see, I was at an age where When you're that small, you don't know when things are supposed to be funny or scary or anything. And the librarian in the beginning was just horrifying to me. I remember that, that's the image I remember. I don't remember a whole lot of the rest of the movie. And I think that's because I blocked it out. I didn't understand what was happening. But I was with it enough in the beginning to remember sitting in the theater and watching the whole part where they sneak up on the ghost librarian.
All right, I've got a plan.
Yeah.
Get her! And then she turns into, the monster.
Yeah.
That scared the shit out of you, huh?
Well, I didn't know to be scared or laugh or anything, And that kind of translates to some of these... I totally agree with you on some of these other things that you're afraid of in movies. Large Marge from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
And when they finally pulled the driver's body from the twisted, burning wreck, it looked like this.
Seriously, that's horrifying because it's it's in the middle of a comedy.
Yeah.
And the whole scene is frightening. It isn't just that part where she goes, Well,
that's the part that got me every time, though.
Well, it is, but
there's a build up to it.
There's a build up to it, and then nothing funny happens in that scene. That scene is strictly there to scare you.
What's funny is, to this day, I love that movie and I'll watch it readily. But when we get to that scene, I actually kind of get nervous. I'm
Who
watching.
wouldn't?
Because you know what my siblings did to me when I was younger is we had a video store right across the street from our home called Electric City Video, and we were renting movies all the time, and we rented that movie, and I loved Pee-wee because I watched Pee-wee's Playhouse on TV. So when I found out there was a movie, I lost my mind. We rented it. But when we got to the Large Marge scene, I screamed and ran out of the living room. My asshole brothers and sisters would rewind the movie and get it ready and say, "It's okay, it's over."
Yeah.
And they lure me back into the room, and as soon as I walk in, there's a Large Marge
Yeah. There's no punchline for that scene either. He goes in the diner and they're like, "The Large Marge has been dead."
So Large Marge was a ghost?
Yeah.
So
that's not a punchline. All they did was just intentionally give children nightmares.
Well, that's what they did back in the 80s.
That's true. That's a show all in and of itself.
Yeah, it is.
The other thing I agree with you on is Cat's Eye.
Experience a series of electrifying adventures as seen through Stephen King's Cat's Eye.
Because
yeah,
I would... when you're a kid and you're asleep at night and your parents insist on you sleeping in the dark because you got to get used to it. You got to toughen up, kid.
Yeah.
So
your parents didn't give you a nightlight, huh?
I didn't have a nightlight. I only had the darkness and the sounds of that little demon running around me. And it didn't help that whole little... and we're talking about one specific scene, which is when that little... What would you call it?
It's a troll. It's a little wall troll.
That steals your soul by sucking your air out of your lungs.
Well, earlier in the movie, the mom says, cats steal your breath in your sleep. So that's what it was trying to do, was trying to steal her breath in her sleep.
Yeah.
Because that thing hated that goddamn cat.
That frightened me because there was no sound that it made that isn't something that you would hear in the night.
Like little jingles on his bells.
Little jingles, or just the little feet, or just little creaks and noises here and there.
So you could right now.
You can convince yourself that the thing is in the room with you when you're a kid. And I can't tell you how many times I ran and turned the lights on and looked around and looked under my bed,
Yeah, you ever
while my parents were sound asleep.
You ever check the baseboards of your bedroom, knocking on them to see if they give it all?
I didn't have that kind of house, but yeah,
you didn't?
I would have. I would have if they were there.
Oh, you're lucky. Yeah, I scoured my room for looking for any entrance or exit. But
I think we branch off at Silver Bullet because I was a little too old.
Now, from the master of mystery and suspense, Stephen King's Silver Bullet. The last glimmering hope.
I mean, I saw Silver Bullet when I was 7. And I was becoming a bit of a cinematic guru by then because I was way beyond what other 7-year-olds were watching at that point.
Well, you were kind of allowed to watch whatever you wanted, probably.
Yeah. I totally gave up on Saturday morning cartoons by age 9.
What?
I was into adult cinema, not that kind of adult cinema.
That came later with Cinemax.
No, I was into real movies
Yeah.
at a very early age. So when I came along with Silver Bullet, I was tempered by other movies before it, and I don't share any fears that you have for it.
Well, I came from a different household where everything I watched was heavily checked out beforehand. My mom wouldn't let me watch any horror movies, although some slipped by the radar because Cue the Winged Serpent.
Its name is Quetzalcoatl. Just call it Q. That's all you'll have time to say before it tears you apart.
She would rent that for me all the time. Never sat and watched it with me, not realizing that, yes, there's a giant flying monster eating people on rooftops,
Yeah.
but the other half of the movie are the cops looking for someone that's ritualistically murdering people,
Yeah.
like skinning them alive, taking out their heart.
That's a great movie, by the way.
I love that movie, but everything that we rented, my mom would check out first. So horror movies were typically
I can
out.
see it, and that's fine. I'm not. It's weird how you came from a background where they monitored what you were watching, and I came from a background where I watched whatever I wanted,
Yeah.
or whatever they rented, and they weren't home, and I was there, and I would just pop it in. I mean, that's how I saw Troll 2. It's weird that we came out of it the same.
More or less, yeah.
So, nature versus nurture, I think nature wins. I think, like, if you can stomach this stuff,
That's true.
it
That's
just
true.
is what it is.
What other flips,
But-
was there any other movies that, like,
The
scared
one
you?
it's always the stuff that shouldn't be scary that scared me when I was a kid. Like, once I got used to the tone of a movie,
Yeah.
like, I can't recall being truly scared by a horror movie because the tone is already horror.
Yeah.
So it's doing what I expect it to do.
Okay.
It's the stuff that, like Large Marge, that comes out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say the one that was sort of meant to be scary but still scared me would be the last in the Twilight Zone movie, the last story in the Twilight Zone movie, the one that
The gremlin on the wing of the plane.
yeah.
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
That my man directed there, Joe Dante. I love that man. But that was horrifying because he was the only one that saw it, and it knew that he could see it, and it didn't care.
Oh, and I totally messed with him.
And it messed with him, yeah. That whole, and the way it moved, and the way it gleefully destroyed that engine.
Oh, yeah.
And then when he's sucked out of the window, and it just walks over to him patiently,
Yeah.
and you have no idea what it's going to do.
Yeah.
And it's the creepiest looking thing.
It just,
in
like,
the world.
slimes him a little bit and then, like, wags its finger at him before it flies off.
Yeah, it's just it everything about that scene was just that was so well done,
Yeah.
and it's so creepy.
That is the strongest part of that anthology, too, I think.
Yeah, that's what it had to be why they put it at the end.
Yeah. You know, one was really stupid that you ever see the movie The Uninvited by Graydon Clark?
No,
It's
I saw the 40s one, and we talked about that before.
Yeah, no, this isn't like the haunted house one. This is the killer cat one.
They say cats have 9 lives. You have only 1.
Oh, I didn't. Is that the one they remade, or are there 3 uninvited movies?
There's
now?
probably 3. There's 3. There's like a Japanese ghost story. Then there's the old haunting one that you're talking
Okay.
about. This one came out in the 80s, straight to video,
Mhm.
and it's a cat escapes from a lab, and it has this like mutant creature inside of it that pops out and bites people and kills them. And for some reason, it scared the shit out of me the first time I ever saw it. It was on USA Up All Night. Remember that show?
Yeah.
I love it. Ron DeShear was hosting it, and at first I was fine, but by the end of the movie, I mean, the cat most of the time was a stupid hand puppet, but for some reason it got under my skin. It probably didn't help that we had a cat in the house, but I ran out of my bedroom, and in my old house there was 2 sets of stairs. I cleared them in 2 leaps, and I was in the living room. My parents were like, "What the hell's wrong?" And they're like, "Oh, I just watched a scary movie. It's fine." I played it off all cool, but like years later, they still remember me. Like, what did you watch that made you jump downstairs so quick?
No, I think it's the stuff that isn't supposed to be scary that scared me when I was a kid. And I think it's because I've always had a good understanding of... Well, not always, because maybe it's the early on seeing The Howling and Ghostbusters where I'm like, all right, my body and my brain is like, kid, you got to learn tone. So I like, at a certain point, I really got to understand the tone of movies and what a movie's trying to do before it really gets going. So when a movie changes its tone or throws you off and brings you something that you weren't expecting, I think that's the stuff that catches me off guard the most. Okay. That's why a lot of the scariest things that I can recall come from children's movies, like the Return to Oz, where she gets the shock treatment, or just Hoggle from Labyrinth. Just looking at him, it's horrifying. He's just this thing that I don't want to see.
Gamak from Neverending Story, the talking wolf creature. That he always kind of spooked me. I don't know, werewolves always creeped me out when I was a kid.
Who are you?
I am the morgue. And you, whoever you are, can have the honor of being my last victim.
Well, Never-Ending Story altogether is a tough movie for a kid to watch because it deals with the idea of being destroyed by something that can't be defined. They throw that at you in an age where you have no concrete thinking skills. So you just have to deal with all this the rise in sales of antidepressants after that movie was released and children have watched it, I think are directly linked.
The whole Artax scene, Swamp of Sadness.
Yes, and the fact your protagonist is also watching this and can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you completely feel helpless. Until the very end, he saves the day.
What? Yeah. Oh, okay. After everything's been destroyed.
Yeah, but then he brings everything back.
And he could have done it a lot earlier because all he had to do was shout out of a window.
It's a learning experience.
Little jerk.
You didn't know. He's a kid. Come on.
No, I blame him. Yeah, maybe I could still be scared if a movie catches me off guard with tone then. Movies are so bad at tone now.
Yeah, they are. I did see an independent movie recently that kind of creeped me out for a couple days.
Yeah.
Digging Up the Marrow. Have you ever heard of that one?
You said something about it, but I haven't seen it.
100 yards beneath the surface of the earth exists a metropolis that mirrors ours in very many respects. I call it the Marrow.
It's like a mockumentary with Adam Green, who's done the Hatchet movies. And he gets contacted by this insane guy that says he's a scientist and discovered that monsters are real and they live in this city beneath this forest, and only he knows about it. And
yeah.
So they decide, okay, you know what? We're gonna prove this. Ray Wise is the scientist, by the way. He's awesome in the movie. And they go to the forest, and they have cameras and GoPros set up everywhere. And they think the guy's full of shit. But then weird things start happening, and they start seeing little creatures running around. And at first I was kind of this is okay. And then, once the movie heads towards its climax, you see all these things attack them.
Is it, a found footage kind of thing?
Yes. Except nobody dies at the end of it. It's not they're dead, but we found the video footage.
Okay.
It's hey, we were making this movie, and then these things happened, and we're going to tell you about them. But it was, some of it's a little unsettling, some of the creature designs, and, the ending of the movie is actually pretty cool. So I would actually suggest anyone listening to try that one out.
Okay. If you're not tired of found footage, or even if you don't care.
You either love it or you hate it, I guess.
Well, it just got exhausting, really.
Well, they're still going with it.
Yeah, I know. I remember watching one that Rennie Harlan did called Devil's Pass.
Oh, was
that? Yeah, and just screw that movie completely. Because, the thing with found footage is it's an excuse to have a third of a movie that has nothing going on, because this is just them filming things and they don't know what's happening, and that is such a cop-out. It worked with Blair Witch only because the gimmick hadn't taken off yet,
and we all thought that it was real footage at first.
No, we did not all think it was real
all
footage.
Of us did.
Even if it was promoted that way, I don't see how you would come across something like that and it wouldn't hit the news before it hit theaters.
People still think it's real. People still think the Texas Chainsaw Massacre actually happened. I'm not even kidding about that.
I understand that people are stupid. I work and meet them every day. Okay? That isn't the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that it became an excuse to do a cheap movie and waste the audience's time for half a movie. you don't have to do that. Especially with something like Devil's Pass, where the end of it is just a bunch of cheap CGI golems running around that don't look convincing or scary at all.
On that note, how would you say the horror genre is doing at the moment?
I'm tentative about saying poorly, because there were a lot of horror movies released this month alone that have gotten good reviews.
Yeah,
and I haven't seen them yet.
Most of them were released in limited theaters and on video on demand.
There are a lot of good horror movies that just don't have a venue right now. And the whole wait till it's on Netflix mentality is sapping a lot of creativity, I think, in the industry, because there's nothing wrong with the audience wanting to wait till it's on Netflix because, it's their money.
Yeah.
But then the industry doesn't want to give Netflix the movies to view. So you're at this impasse where there's a lot of good stuff that just isn't being seen because the venue that is being used the most isn't being filled up with what it should be.
Yeah.
So I don't want to knock horror right now because, honestly, in the last year, I've seen more great movies than I've seen in the last 10 years.
Yeah, this has actually been a very solid movie season this year.
Yeah.
All the big stuff's out of the way theatrically until December. Most of what I've watched has been on video on demand. The Final Girls, which I've been raving about on my site for a while.
How do we get out of here? Movies like this end when the final girl kills the bad guy and the credits roll. That's Paula. That's the final girl. We just have to stay with her till the end of the movie.
That has been a movie where people who like... I'm going to watch it at some point. I just wasn't in the mood for horror comedy this weekend. I know what it's about, so... I got burned by a couple of movies that had grassroots movements of being good horror movies.
Yeah.
Babadook was one of them.
Oh, yeah. And It Follows.
And It Follows.
Which I think was probably the most solid,
it's a good
horror film of the year. To me.
It's a good movie that breaks a lot of its own rules. And when it's a movie about rules, and hey, maybe this is the perfect time to talk about it because Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Friday the Elm Street 31st.
Yeah. Nightmare on Elm Street is a rule movie. And actually, Wes Craven did the rule movie thing.
Yeah.
He might have come up with it. These are the rules that we have to follow. And Nightmare on Elm Street is very much about them discovering how the monster works and developing a set of rules to combat that monster. Same thing with Scream. Scream was all about horror movie rules.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And how the existence of those rules is how the murderers moved and determine their actions. Okay? So, if you're making a movie that's like that, which It Follows is definitely this, urban myth type of monster that works on a set of principles.
Yeah.
You're not going to believe me, and I need you to remember what I'm saying. This thing, it's going to follow you. Somebody gave it to me, and I passed it to you. Wherever you are, it's somewhere walking straight for you. All you can do is pass it along to someone else.
And then you violate all the principles that you set up. It's hard to stay with that movie. I thought it was shot very well, and it was way too in love with it being a philosophical metaphor monster when it was also a very real monster that threatened them.
Yeah.
I think if they'd have treated it like a real monster and not had these pithy teens who didn't seek help at all during the movie.
Well, what adult would believe there's an invisible fucking
Once
monster
you see somebody get destroyed in front of you, because the monster didn't seem to care about being found.
No, it didn't. Well, no. It didn't. It seemed like it wouldn't attack anybody in a public place, but then again, people just kept running and running.
People kept going to private places to hide from it.
Yeah, and it would still find them. The director...
Quentin Tarantino grilled him. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, I did see that.
And he made some good points. I think he was too hard on it. It's a good movie, and there's a lot of people who are going to love it, and that's fine. I just wasn't one of them. I wasn't as impressed as I thought it would be.
I was a little underwhelmed by it, but after thinking about it more, I enjoyed it quite a bit. The director did go on record as saying, yes, certain things in the movie people said shouldn't have happened, like it broke the rules. But he said, did you ever stop and consider that the characters don't know all the rules yet? That most of this is guesswork?
Well, sure, but then... Like, all of a sudden you can shoot it, and then there's the part of the movie where it was just waiting on the roof of the house for her to come out and didn't try to get to her after it had already tried to get to her before.
Well, you know what I thought? There's more than one.
Yeah, but they don't allude to that. See,
I know.
A movie shouldn't make you do that much work. Right? I'm sitting there eating popcorn. You were supposed to do the work for me. I don't move. My jaw moves. I crunch. I swallow. And you put things into my eyes that make sense.
It swallows. Yes.
I'm sure that exists.
It probably will.
And I don't even want to get into Babadook. Babadook is one of those movies that just... It's like some people get scared just by imagery. I don't. You have to... And maybe this is... Maybe I like Wes more than I think I do. Because he took the effort to suspend my disbelief.
Oh, okay.
There's movies like The Original Haunting, which I don't like, that is hugely popular, and some people say it's the greatest horror movie of all time. I think it's a pretentious pile of crap myself, because nothing is actually happening.
That's true.
You can't trust, like, they established the main character as a lunatic, so you can't trust anything that she says or thinks. It's the same thing with Babadook. Like, you don't know what's really happening, and then when you realize maybe none of this is happening, and that she's still raising the kid, right?
Whoops.
So, yeah. Okay.
I got you. Alright, that's fine.
My favorite part is when the kid attacked her. I was like, yeah, get her.
The catapult and the dart gun?
Yeah, and start stabbing her and stuff, yes. Get her.
That raised the bar for a few minutes.
Well, it did, because it was the Shining part. That's what you got to do, and that's why The Shining's good, because The Shining, yes, there's scary imagery, and yes, it's all in Jack Nicholson's head, but then Jack Nicholson becomes the monster. You have to take care of the monster.
Yeah.
There's like no monster in Babadook. It's all 2/3 of a movie. I need my final act.
Yeah, there really isn't a conclusion to it, is there?
No. So, thank you, Wes, for suspending my disbelief, I should say. I wasn't sure what I would say about him, and then I talked so much that I knew what I would say about him.
See, look, you came full circle.
I did.
You like Wes.
I didn't say I didn't like him.
I didn't say you didn't either. You like him.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap things up here. Are there any?
Yes, there's a stinger that you don't even know it's coming.
I know you keep alluding to this. Is there any, before we close out, are there any suggestions for what to watch this Halloween night?
Oh, okay. Up? Yeah, since we're gonna stay on topic of Halloween.
Yes, Halloween.
Everybody has their own things, and I guess I should just give my own picks.
Okay.
And if it's something you haven't seen, give it a shot. But I sort of think people are onto something when they watch It's a Wonderful Life every Christmas. Find your movie for Halloween. Find your movie and watch it every Halloween. Because it'll make the holiday feel like the holiday, no matter how much things change around you.
Yeah. What are your go-tos?
One of them, I think we watched tonight.
Yes.
Halloween 3 is starting to grow on me in a way that it didn't when I first watched it.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
I watched it when I was younger, and I was very concerned about continuity at that age.
Yeah.
And Halloween 3 has nothing to do with the rest of the franchise.
That's because Michael Myers was dead after part 2.
Well, but if you're going to put the title Halloween on it, you kind of think it would have something to do with Michael Myers.
That's why it kind of blew up in their face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something more than, it's a movie that we're going to show on a TV and
and rot your kid's brain.
But we're far enough away from it for the continuity not to matter, because the Halloween franchise has become a joke.
It's in a sad state, yes. I can't really defend.
I like the first two, and I like the third. And I'm gonna put them in two different groups because they have nothing to do with each other. And everything after that, I don't care about.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of other people are that way.
I don't know.
I mean, after that, you're like, how is he alive?
They never quite explain that.
Yeah. He's very much a real guy, and I've never seen mental health issues keep you alive through shootings and stabbings. So,
you know what? I think part of it was people expected Michael Myers in a Halloween movie, which is why 3 kind of tanked when it came out. But B, Friday the 13th, there's no reason for Jason to just keep going and going and going. So they're like, well, that's doing
other than
well.
He was dead to begin with.
But was he?
Yes.
I mean, he obviously feels pain.
I just thought of Jason walking to the binary sunset from Star Wars. with a machete in his hand. So he doesn't feel existential pain. He feels...
Well, it's just, I watched 4, 5, and 6 at the Palace Theater last night in 35mm. And like, by 6, he's a zombie, yes. But like in part 4, he takes a beating. He feels it. But with Michael Myers, the whole time, he just silently gets up and just keeps going. Like, there's no reason for it. At least none given.
Well, but I think what helps is there never was a reason for it. They never.
Well, they tried to shoehorn that in like 4, 5, and 6. It's something to do with like the mark of the thorn on his wrist and constellations and. Yeah, I think they try to tie it back into Halloween 3 in a way with Celtic things.
Those are really big reaches that are just winks and nods to the fact that they know the audience is in on the joke. Just because you have a homicidal maniac killing teenagers doesn't mean it should be infinitely resurrected. They very much made Michael Myers to be a real person in the first movie. And he was a real person who was alive, who escaped from a mental institution and was shot.
6 times he shot him.
I shot him 6 times. What? I shot him 6 times. I shot him in the heart.
Can't have gotten very far. Come on.
I shot him 6 times. Yeah. This guy, this man, he's not human.
And the only reason it seemed like he could keep going in the second one is because it only happened later that night, and maybe he wasn't shot in a place that would kill him.
But then he got blown away by the cops later in the movie, and then literally blown up at the end of the movie.
Exactly. So he should have been dead by then.
Yeah. Well, he was.
That's why the first 2 movies are more solid, because you can still kind of think, yeah, he's alive. So this is a pointless argument.
It is. All right, so
my stinger.
Yeah, let's hear it. What do you
Our
got?
next show, whether you like it or not, is going to be about Star Wars, because all I can do is think about Star Wars. What I want to say to build up the next show is that I've never been hailed as a moviegoer the way this movie has been hailing the audience.
Yeah.
And it's different than like when we were going gonzo about Godzilla last year, because that's a niche, and it's also, we can't turn into Godzilla as much as we would like to. What was attractive about episodes 4, 5, and 6, or original trilogy, whatever you want to call it, is the notion that the Force was something anybody could become part of if they were faithful. Before all the midichlorian garbage.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
The idea that you could become part of it.
Yeah.
This advertising campaign has been the most subtle middle finger to the midichlorian concept, and no one's talking about it. The teaser just set it up where you know they're aligning themselves with 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
And then there was the second one that came out that was very nostalgia heavy, but Luke says, you have that power too. I know I do. You know?
Yeah.
And then you get to this last trailer, which is making people weep. And the first time I saw it, it's just too much to take in.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I was doe-eyed and just like dreamy and watching it like it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. But I wasn't weepy until like the second or third time I watched it. I realized this is calling to me. The Force is calling to me, and they even sneak it in there. They say the Force is reaching out to you. Just let it in. Let it in. I will let it in. I don't need midichlorians. And neither do you. And nobody's talking about how they're really doing it. I guarantee you they're not going to broach that subject at all. Just based on the advertising. The other thing I liked about the latest one, and this is where we'll close because we've talked longer than I thought we would.
No, it never happens.
Yeah, it happens every time. The thing that is really neat about this trailer is that it makes people who think Star Wars is for nerds feel left out. Finally, you feel left out, you pricks. Because like they're watching it and It's awesome visually, and it's emotionally moving, and it sets you up like this has all happened and you've missed out on it. All these myths, they were all true, and that's coming out of Han Solo's mouth, you know.
Yeah.
And it sets up that, like, yes, you're starting to like this, aren't you? It's okay for you to watch this now. This is cool. You don't have to, like, pick on people who like these movies now. So, I hope all those people who thought the Star Wars was for nerds drive by and see the massive lines outside the movie theater and just wonder why they don't get it. Why am I left out? Why am I last pick now?
You don't have to be. Join us.
Join us. The Force is calling to you. All right, we'll see you next time.
All right, yeah, everybody have a happy and safe Halloween. Go party, go trick-or-treating, do whatever it is that makes you happy on this holiday, which is my personal favorite. Expect a Mystery Science Theater episode at some point. Also expect a Star Wars episode at some point.
Next.
Okay.
We recorded a Mystery Science Theater episode.
I know.
Where did that go?
It's coming. It's coming. Okay. This Thanksgiving. So thanks for listening, everybody. Happy Halloween. We'll see you again soon.